And we just got done reviewing the Matilda musical that came out on Netflix. Once again, great job to Netflix, especially for bringing like such a great story, kind of back to life again, in a new medium in a very good way. So props to that. We're going to be switching gears a little bit to a movie called Hit the Second Case. This movie came out, it was on Prime Video, so you can go see it on Prime Video if you have that. And it's actually the sequel to Hit, the first case. So this is the second one, second of three. They'd announced that there would be a third one in the trilogy. And I have some thoughts on this movie, but before I give you those thoughts, let me just kind of give you some context on what this movie is about. So Hit the Second Case is a crime film. It's set in Andhra Pradesh, follows the story of Krishna Dev, who's played by Adivi Sesh, and a kind of special agent on the Homicide Investigation Team, or HIT for short. And the film begins with the story of a man named Ram and follows the investigation of a gruesome murder that occurs in the city. And this is really just like, one of those big like murder mystery type films where clues are kind of sprinkled in. They try to identify the killer and whatnot, and they kind of tease to show who it might be. So the film's trying to like kind of keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. So there's this like big reveal at the end. However, I will say this film didn't really have the necessary big reveal, because it was revealed to the audience later that there's actually a third installment to this movie. And so a couple of things that not only struck me as a little anticlimactic, but a lot of other people that watched this was in the trailer that premiered the announcement of this film and everything. There were a lot of like big moments. Like I know that myself, I was actually very excited to see this, after having covered the first one. I was definitely excited to, kind of see the second one, because the first one wasn't half bad, right? But however, like the big moments in the trailer were really actually the only climactic points in the second one. What you were revealed in the trailer were actually the big moments of this one. So there were just a lot of moments where I was kind of sitting in my seat, waiting, what kind of happened next. And it really did kind of fall into the same trap a lot of like trilogies have, where the first movie is great, right? Sets the scene for a second one. Second one, okay, right? But it's really just kind of used as a filler, if not a transition into the third one, which is always a great conclusion. That, to me, at least, kind of seems how trilogies act, and it's definitely how this one, came off as well. So there will be a hit third case, but I'm hoping that it's quite a bit better than the second one. There are a few things though to shout out. I definitely think that the acting in this, was great. Some of the members I'd love to shout out is like Rao Ramesh, Tenikela Barani, I believe that's the pronunciation, and Srinath Maganti. Great music and overall like cinematography as well. Like there were some pretty good things about this film. The only thing is just like the pacing of it. When they decided to reveal certain details, when they, there were just aspects of it that really weren't the most. It just didn't reveal or make for a good, climactic sequence.
I
But
think kind of
overall,
like
those are my. Oh, go ahead,
sorry, go
Tasha.
ahead. So sorry. I was gonna say, do you think that since the first movie that you reviewed was kind of like a true crime documentary thing, and this was like a murder mystery, they're kind of like in the same vein. So how do you think like storytelling compares between?
Storytelling in the first one was great, because with any kind of like trilogy or with any kind of series, like that first film is meant to kind of just lay the groundwork for I like to call them worlds, because that's what movies do. They build you a world that you're kind of immersed in. You follow the lives of these characters. And so the first one did a really good job of just like kind of laying down the world. Like we got to understand what the Homicide Intervention Team was, and like how they interact with each other, what they ultimately do to find the identity of the murder. And so there were just things like, since I wasn't immersed in this world already, whenever they kind of sprinkle in details, you're like grabbing onto them, because they're important details, but it also leads for great, suspense. However, in this one, we're already kind of immersed in this world. And so what I think that they have to do different is there has to be something, some key piece of information that we as the audience don't know, that we slowly learn throughout the movie. That piece of information for this one would have been the identity of the murder. And so ultimately, they, in the third, it seems to be like in this third and last one is whenever we will finally like find out who this murderer is. So the second one really only does serve to be the development of this case, right? And ultimately, in the end, we don't find out, who it is. So, like I said, I think in order to do the second one right, the storytelling has to go. It can't still follow the same linear path as the first one, where you're just finding clues for this investigation. There has to be something different about it, to still be able to maintain the current plot, but also like keep the audience really engaged, keep the audience to want to go to the third one. Because honestly, like where it stands right now, I'm excited for the third one, but the second one didn't really make me be like, oh boy, like I can't wait to figure out who this third, who this murderer is. So that's just like my critique there. But like I said, I think there was great acting. I thought, overall the production was pretty good, right? Like this wasn't a crappy movie by any means. The only thing that just really kind of slugged it was its pacing, when it decided to kind of reveal, and just like the climactic points of it too. The climactic points didn't really get much more than, as I said earlier, the trailer. So overall, I highly recommend you give it a watch. However, don't be don't be upset if you see that like the pacing isn't the best, because hey, we watch it so you don't have to, but I'm telling you, it's a good go ahead. You can go.